Well, hello. My name is Matt Edmondson, and you are listening to the E-Commerce Podcast. I have been an e-commercer since 2002. Yes, I have, ladies and gentlemen, a very long time. And these days, I partner with e-commerce brands to help them grow, scale, and exit. And if you'd like to know more about how that works, and if we could actually work together, head over to our website, ecommercepodcast.net. It's all there. But that's enough about me. Today, I am joined with a delightful guest, Millie Flemington-Clare from Human Beauty. Millie, it's fair to say that I've been looking forward to this conversation since we spoke. I think it was in February. We sort of connected, didn't we? And this is one of our founder episodes. So you run your own e-commerce business, but it's fair to say you've got a bit of a story which is, I'm going to say it's nothing short of inspiring, really. So give us a little bit of background about you.
So I was born with a rare condition called cystinosis. It's a condition that only affects around 2,000 people in the world, and it mainly affects my kidneys, but I was also tube fed until I was 18, and I'm only 4'6". So I grew up kind of desperate to fit in and out of hospital, and it was very apparent I was different to like my peers. And I found who I am and my self-expression through makeup. But the beauty industry isn't and wasn't very inclusive or accessible. And that was kind of what made me really want to start my own journey in owning my own beauty brand and kind of making sure I be the representation that I wish I'd seen when I was a teenager.
Yeah.
Because I didn't feel represented, and I think it would have helped me discover who I am sooner if I had seen more of me.
Yeah, well, fantastic. Well, and we're going to dig into all of that, which we had a brief, like I said, we had quite a bit of a chat, didn't we, in February, and I just loved it. And since you and I spoke, those listening in the UK that watch a certain TV show called Dragon's Den may either remember you or you would go, oh, that name sounds familiar. Dragon's Den is the equivalent of Shark Tank in the US, and you were on there recently.
I was, yeah. It aired on the 27th of February, so it's nearly been a month this week.
Nearly been a month since you were on there. And in fact, it's series 22, episode 8, according to the BBC iPlayer. And it's the last episode in this current season. Mm-hmm. And so somehow, I know there are some nuances to this journey, but you somehow got onto Dragon's Den. You pitched to the dragons on there. And to quote Deborah, you came away with the best deal that has ever been given on Dragon's Den because you retained all of your business but got the help of 3 dragons. At least on air you did. The reality of that may or may not be different. I don't want to presume. So if you don't mind, let's start there. How was that?
How was pitching or being on the Den?
Yeah, because I remember watching the show, right? And there's this clip on the show where you're going up in the lift or the elevator for American cousins, and you're going up, and there's that big deep breath that you take in, and I'm like, oh, you looked like you were slightly nervous, and this was kind of your way of just calming yourself a little bit.
Yeah. Well, the spoiler alert: the lift is fake.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, so I was really, really nervous. I mean, I've been watching the show since I was about 7, and it was always my dream to be on the show. And pitching and public speaking is a nerve-wracking thing anyway. Yeah. It'd been a whole day of preparation, and I'd been in and out of that lift, to be honest, for 40 minutes.
Just filming all the different takes.
Yeah, and they definitely keep you in the lift for a bit, just to build that tension and the thing. But yeah, that was my game time. It's time to go and do my thing, and trying to breathe, because I knew I was about to do a pitch for a minute and a half, and when I pitch I sometimes forget to breathe, and I just I speed talk, and then I just suddenly mid-sentence go. So yeah, it was it's TV, isn't it? So
Yeah.
you don't think about these things when you watch it for years. Actually, like that it's a set ultimately, and it is a TV show. But the pitch was exhilarating and terrifying. I the relief of that it was over. I completely forgot. Like at the end, you have to like you usually say, "Oh, dragons, you got some samples under your seat," or whatever. And I kind of just did my pitch and was kind of like this, and they were like, "Oh, are you going to tell us what's under our seat?"
Okay.
Oh yeah, you got some products under your seat, and they made us do that awful catwalk when my brand is a makeup brand. We're not doing catwalks. So yeah, it was an experience, to say the very least, and it was months of preparation that led to that moment. But I was really happy in the end with how my pitch went. I try not to, when I do pitches, I try not to like practice, like word for word script it, because if I mess up, my brain doesn't work like that. I'll then be like, I can't continue. So it was different every time I practiced, but overall it went really well. And I was in there for about an hour and 20 minutes answering questions.
Oh, really? Because it's like 3 minutes on the show, isn't it?
Yeah, so I did my pitch. They asked a couple questions to my models. They left, and then it was about an hour. I was in there, so they cut over an hour of footage down to 13 minutes. I think I got in the end.
Wow, and I mean, you said that it was your dream to go on there, and I'm curious as to you started this e-commerce business, Human Beauty, which you mentioned a few years ago. 2 years ago, just under 2 years, I think, isn't it?
Well, technically, it was 2022, and because I basically it was just after COVID. It'd been kind of in the works, and then I got the opportunity to appear on a kind of documentary series, and they have like about 10 million subscribers across the world. So I was like, wow, I was just about to go traveling for a few months, so I got a website up. I didn't really have product. Well, I didn't have physical product with me, and I was just like, I'll just put it up, go traveling, and in case people want to pre-order. So that is technically when it started, but like really properly in the last year and a half is when I've been actually doing it.
Yeah, no, fair play. So it's a fairly young business, and so were you of the mind, this is an opportunity to get on Dragon's Den, it's a show I've always wanted to be on, or were you of the mind of, well, actually this actually could be quite useful? Whether or not I get the investment, I'm on BBC TV. There's PR that goes alongside that, etc., etc. I'm kind of curious. What was your reasoning to go on the show?
I mean, firstly, as I said, I kind of always, as a young person, when I was like a kid wanting to own my business, that was like you'd made it if you were on the show. But yeah, ultimately, whether I didn't need the investment. I didn't need the money. They cut my last year of financials, so it made me look like I had like £900 in the bank. But that ultimately that just wasn't true. I'd won £60,000 in grant funding and pitch competitions. But the PR and the being able to get out there in front of a wider audience, and get my messaging and my purpose out there was ultimately the goal. Having mentorship and help from the dragons was also the goal, but but having the idea of it being on national TV was ultimately the main goal.
And so, if I can ask, what happened to the business then after the TV show was aired?
Yeah, so on the evening, we had a kind of load of thousands of people on our website. I think overall we had about 20,000 people on the website, which was good. Not as many as I thought, like in that space of time. But again, like it didn't really cross my mind that people don't watch live TV anymore.
It's so true.
And no one watches, like, especially no one my age. even has a TV license. So watching BBC is not even on their radar.
Yeah.
Like 500,000 people last year stopped paying for TV licenses. So we grew on social media, but again, I think we gained like 2,000 followers.
Right.
Which, from mentors I'd spoken to that had been on the show, 5 years ago, that was like nothing.
Yeah.
And we got quite a few sales, like a couple hundred sales over the next, like that evening and the next few days, which all really great. I reached a whole new audience that I never thought I would in terms of demographic, age demographic. My age demographic probably went up by 30 years, 20 to 30 years. So, overall, we did get out there, but not particularly out there to the people I thought or I would have wanted to reach. Because then it how we communicate with these people and the customer service and all these things you don't think of and processes before have now been a bit of a pain in the ass.
Yeah. As you get there, I can appreciate that. I remember when we launched our beauty website. I think I've told this story before on the show, but we launched a beauty website, and but this is a long time ago. This is 2006 when we launched the site, and we thought that by the end of the year. So we had like 4 months to go until the end of the year, right? So we thought in that 4 months, if we could do about £10,000 worth of sales, we were on track, with what we predicted that, we could potentially do with some clever marketing. We thought we could probably do about 50 grand in our first year. So in the first 4 months, if we hit 10 grand, we'd be okay. But we didn't do £10,000 in sales in our first 4 months. We did £400,000 in sales in our first 4 months.
Wow.
And the result of that was quite extraordinary. So you have to rethink a lot of what you once knew, right? So, and this is what you're finding out, that actually all of a sudden, managing a business which is rapidly growing is fundamentally a wonderful problem to have. But it is still a problem. Yeah. And there are still things that you have to think about and you have to deal with and you have to, adapt to and so on and so forth. And it was just, I just remember that phase. To be fair, I didn't have to deal with most of it because we just did the web side of things. It was just great, but it was quite an extraordinary time. And so I can see how you would have a few things that you now have to deal with. Yeah. Has the momentum stayed? Or was it sort of a blip?
No, like this is the first time ever I've not had a single day without sales. But again, I was slightly disappointed because I had in my head figures that I'd known people in the past had done versus what I had done. So although actually now I've taken a step back, this is amazing because this is more than I've ever made, but it's still is it enough? And is the next step and the future of my business that is, it wasn't this overnight thing that I kind of in my head thought it would be. But we are still having sales every day. And ultimately the people that are my target audience don't watch the show. So it's now about resharing the clips and trying to make the most of the press on social media because the people I have reached, they don't have social media. They don't even particularly know how to use emails, a lot of them. But it's stayed. Obviously the night of it was huge, but sales are plodding along, which is good.
It's interesting, isn't it? I remember we had Lucy from Tom Jewelry on the show, and her business took a turn when Stacey Solomon was pictured wearing her jewelry. I think Stacey was wearing it when she got married. And to be totally full disclosure, I love Stacey. I think my wife and I are always watching the TV shows. I just think she's great. And again, if you're outside of the UK, Stacey she's a UK TV personality who is just lovely. So she's very real, isn't she, Stacey?
Yeah.
And Lucy was talking about how she was photographed at her wedding with her jewelry. And so Lucy's whole MO then became about using that in her social media. It wasn't like the world picked up on the fact that Stacey was wearing Lucy's jewelry. Lucy had to tell the world and I think she still does in many ways. And I think it used to be, I remember years ago, there was, there's a self-tan product that I can't remember the name of. It was super popular for a period of time. And I remember the brand wasn't really doing anything. And then somebody in the press took a picture of Victoria Beckham, carrying a carrier bag with a logo on the front. Yeah. And then all of a sudden everybody wanted that fake tan because Victoria Beckham was using it. And I get that influencer aspect is quite important with famous influencers. Like you say, I think it's different now. People don't read magazines. They don't really watch live TV. It's all moved on.
Yeah.
And so I see why you're probably in a phase now where you can use those clips, I'm guessing, for social proof, right?
Yeah. Well, yes and no.
Okay.
Technically, we're not allowed. It says you're not allowed to use clips from the show.
Okay.
Promote your business.
Yeah.
But we all know that every single business that has ever been on Dragon's Den uses clips from the show and puts, a big banner with pictures on their website that says "That's seen on." So there was businesses that were breaking the rules of the guidelines that we'd been given before they'd even been on the show. I am now going to use the clips. It's just, I think it's more of a ask for forgiveness, not permission situation. They do say that they're meant to approve any piece of content you ever post in relation to it. But yeah, I mean, how many ads have you seen from like Fussy deodorant or all those brands that have been on it? It's now figuring out like how I use it, how I want to go about talking about it and sharing the clips, because they managed to cut any conversation about my actual products out of the edit. They spent like a whole hour talking about my mascara. And I thought, we'll do a little cute social media post like with mascara count, like how many times the dragon said the word mascara. And they didn't say mascara once in the entire edit. So there isn't actually much like product-based stuff that I could even use to technically promote your business. It's just kind of being clever with how I use it and how I want to go about it next.
Yeah. Which makes sense. I'm curious, how did you deal? You mentioned, and I don't want to put words in your mouth, Millie, but you mentioned that you were a little bit disappointed with both the exposure and I suppose the resulting social media followers and the sales, I suppose, a little bit after Drake. You thought that would be bigger.
Yeah.
And if I'm honest with you, every entrepreneur that's ever started a business, irrespective of whether they've been on Dragon's Den, always wanted it to be bigger and better than it was.
Yeah.
How have you dealt with that?
Difficultly, to be honest. It all became a bit overwhelming. On the night, everyone, I'm a perfectionist, and like a lot of business owners, like I had an idea in my head. So when it fell short of it, I was disappointed. And as much as people have good intention around me, they're like, no, but it's amazing. Like, look at this. All I could think of was what wasn't in the edit. And obviously I'm the only one who knew what actually was said and done. And I also had an idea of what would have made the cut in terms of TV. So having, as much as people meant well, the more people said, oh no, but you came across so well, or you're doing amazing, it kind of annoyed me more.
Right.
But I've just been trying to take a step back and look at, the actual amazing achievements that we have got. And taking a step back from social media and emails and trying to find some kind of balance between my work and my life, where that starts and that ends in the last couple of weeks. Because I was becoming really overwhelmed with just the sheer amount of work. Because I've been packaging all the orders myself. I've been dealing with customers, and I ended up accidentally sending out a few bits of faulty product. And it's the first time this has ever happened. I've ever had faulty product. So we've got we've got hundreds of people, or like 100 people, their first experience is a bad one. And I put my heart and soul into these products, and I've never had to deal with it. And then having customers email me almost like kind of attacking me, like I purposely sent them terrible product. It was really devastating, and trying to like pick myself back up and see how this continues was, it's been hard, but trying to celebrate the small wins has been a big help.
Yeah. How did you approach that customer service problem?
I've got a VA through Access to Work who kind of helps with my life admin and stuff. And at first I tried to tackle it all, which wasn't a good idea, because again, I'm too close to the problem. I'm too close to what I know it should be. And so at first I was replying to emails all hours, and I've been bombarded by them, and I didn't have much patience for people.
Especially mean people.
Yeah, because I was like, you've watched me on national TV, crying on national TV, pour my heart and soul out, and then you email me being horrible and saying I'm disgraceful and, using really mean words, almost like I've done it on purpose. I'm trying to scam you, or people are, really impatient for their parcels as well. Like we've had that a lot, people waiting a few days, so I then realized I very quickly needed to outsource it and get someone else that's not so close to it to deal with it, because as I say, I was taking it personally.
And you have to develop a little bit of a thick skin, I think, in e-commerce, mainly because I think I'm sure there is some proper name for this, which if I thought about it would dredge it up from the back of my head. But the interesting thing is, if you buy something from a shop and you then take it back to the shop, you appreciate that the person in front of you was not the source of the problem, right? But they're the person that can help you. And you might be a little bit peeved at the shop because you've got to take it back and all that sort of stuff. But you genuinely or generally talk like a reasonable human being, right? Yeah. You take that same person and you put them in a place where they become faceless and their communication is digital. Yeah. Wow. It's like the meanness sort of barometer gets turned up. Does that mean the switch goes all the way around and they say the most extraordinary things which they would never say face to face? Yeah. And so I think you do have to, be a bit thick-skinned in that. And we've just come to realize, I think, because initially I would respond, I would rally against things like that. I'd be like, well, if you can talk to me like that, I don't care. I just genuinely don't care. Yeah. Which is probably not the most helpful response. No. And then I took it as a challenge to see if I could win them. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? It's like, well, because if I win them over, then actually they probably will become quite loyal customers. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? Is sort of what we found. And so then that became the challenge. And the way that we did it was to say, listen, we're going to call you and resolve this over the phone. Right. And that just changed everything, because people are much more sensible on the phone than they are on email. I don't know what it is. Put people on Twitter or on email and they become lunatics. It's just, it just draws it out of us, I guess. Yeah, it's been learning, and even just like, even people using my website or even using my products and not knowing how to do them, in my head is like the most simple thing in the entire world. And just having to talk people through things like that. I'd never even imagined anyone would need
help with.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's been good, and we have, done that, been able to win people over, and actually, even things like realizing, not to offer a refund as the first, like a replacement and a refund.
Yeah.
Just say we're going to send you a replacement ASAP, and no one asked for a refund.
Yeah.
It only happened once with one lady that I did what you said. I said, you know what, like, if you can't wait, I said, I explained to her 3 times that I was one person packing like 200 orders, and if she couldn't wait for it, I said, like, do you mind bearing with me? And she just came back meaner and meaner every time and said, I don't, talking about my shipping stuff. I said, you know what? I said, if you can't wait, I'll give you a refund. I was like, so
it's not worth the headache. Yeah.
I was like, it's 20 quid. She can have it back. I don't want you as a customer.
Yeah. I definitely don't need this in my life. Yeah. I appreciate that. It's fascinating, isn't it? Because it sounds like you've gone through a lot then, the last a big learning curve with your ecom business. And it will just keep growing, Millie. I mean, you're in the beauty industry, perhaps one of the most competitive, I'm speaking from experience, one of the most competitive sort of places to try and operate a business in. You've got quite a unique niche. You have a cause, and this is something which is quite interesting in many ways. Businesses that are built around a noble cause, and what that means, which is fine if you're somebody like Patagonia or Tom's Shoes, or somebody that actually proves that they're doing the cause that they set out to do, rather than just kind of, greenwashing or cause washing or whatever the phraseology is.
Yeah.
But obviously for you, that this is a mission. It's not just, I mean, it's nice to make money out of it, but you're doing this because of a deep personal mission or sense of mission, I would have thought.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah, for sure. And I have bigger ambitions than that have kind of appeared as a result of this journey that I've been on so far with human beauty, in terms of like making a bigger change, like in the beauty industry, but also in any product-based businesses in terms of accessibility. Because ultimately we've got my makeup products and my community, but what is the core of what I do is my story, which is so many other people's story, and also my kind of more wider campaigning for accessibility. So yeah, it's kind of a piece of hopefully a bigger puzzle.
Yeah, and I want to dig into this a little bit if I can with you, Millie. But before I do, let me just do the quick ad break, as we like to say. If you're enjoying this conversation, if you run your own e-commerce business like Millie and you would like to join us, why not come and join in one of our e-commerce cohorts? We have one in the UK, we have one in Australia and New Zealand, and we have a new one actually starting in the US as well, probably summertime 2025. And so, yeah, if you're an e-commerce entrepreneur and you want to come join in, basically, it's a monthly Zoom call. We just get together with the e-com entrepreneurs, just trade stories, ideas, and that's not about it. There's a bit more to it than that, but you get the point. You get to hang out with other e-com entrepreneurs and learn from each other, and it's totally free. It's pretty awesome, pretty rad, pretty cool, pretty rad. I can't believe I've just said that. A man of my age. I've been hanging out with my kids too much. Anyway, if you want to know more about e-commerce cohort, just go to the website, ecommercepodcast.net, and who knows, I might see you on one of those calls. So, Millie, let's jump into this mission, the accessibility around products, because being totally candid, it's not something that has affected me, and so I have to work hard to think about accessibility, if that makes sense. And I remember years ago when the web started becoming a thing, and everybody was just like, in the code, you have to put like alt tags on images. So if someone who's partially blind or blind is using your website, they understand what the image is. And you go, well, this makes all the sense in the world. Why this should be a standard, right? Even things like contrast, if the colors aren't too distinguished, then it can affect people visually. I mean, I'm just an old man now, so I have to wear readers. So, I'm not a big fan of tiny fonts, but that's about the limit in some respects. Where I don't see it in experience. You do on a fairly regular basis, and you've done things which I think are quite remarkable. Like, I mean, I was joking before we hit the record button, I think, about mascara and how I'm not brilliant actually I'm not a knowledge base on it. But you've done something quite unusual with the mascara, which is, I guess, why they talked about it for an hour on Dragon's Den.
Yeah, I think it was a mixture between, in terms of them talking on Dragon's Den, I think it was a mixture between what it was. It is like the product that a lot of people talk about, because it has the most amount of unique selling points. So we've got our anti-roll packaging, which ultimately is just square packaging. But I talk about like incremental innovation. It has just small tweaks to existing products that are thoughtful design considerations that then make it better for everyone. Because until you start thinking about it, you don't realize how many products in a makeup bag are round, cylindrical. If you're you do your makeup on the commute on the train, and then you have to do that awkward roll under the chair, and have to get in between people and be like, sorry, can I get my product? So it's like accessible design ultimately benefits everyone. And if you look around you, there are things that have been designed for disabled people that actually have just made it into the mainstream because it's just good design. I do think they spoke about my mascara a lot as well, because Peter Jones isn't going to pick up a pink heart-shaped product and be like, I love this. This is your star product. Whereas my mascara is green and arguably masculine. And then the rest of the dragons kind of ran with it. Peter said, this is your product, and they ran with it. Because like our eyeshadow palette has QR codes, or now we're going to put NaviLens codes on them, which are basically a QR code, but NaviLens are slightly different designs. So people who are visually impaired or blind, you can scan the QR code from a much further distance, from angles, that type of thing. And it leads to audio visual descriptions of the shades, and all of our eyeshadows are kind of placed in positions that make sense, because again, eyeshadow palettes just are plopped around whatever looks better. So yeah, it's also talk about accessibility, not just from design features, but price is often forgotten about. We're seeing some brands bring out like techie devices, like there was a tech device to apply lipstick, and it's basically a gimbal, camera gimbal, but that you can put lipsticks in. But it costs $200.
Wow.
It can only be used with this brand's specific mascara, which is about 8 times the price of a normal mascara, which then lipstick, which then creates forced loyalty. 53% of disabled people are unemployed, and it costs on average £1,200 a month more just to live and exist as a disabled person in the UK.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
And it's a really scary place for my community right now with all the government cuts.
Yeah, it is. I mean, yeah, if we were a political podcast, I would rock and roll on this. I mean, it's ridiculous in many ways, but...
So that's important, that price is also taken into consideration when we talk about accessible products.
So let me ask you a question then, Millie, if I can. I run e-com businesses, and I know many people listening to the show run e-com businesses. Beyond the price aspect of it, and I don't quite know how to help with pricing other than give discounted pricing, but then how do you do that in a way that is equitable and fair? That's going to take a little bit of thought, but for someone like me that runs e-commerce businesses, that has I think it's probably fair to say we all have a real heart to do the right thing. Some people don't, and I get, and if that's you, please don't listen to the show. You should probably turn it off now. But do you know what I mean? We have a real heart in some respects to do the right thing.
Yeah.
But we don't know what we don't know, if that makes sense. And so where's a good place for us to start? What's some of the things that we should think about, maybe, is a better question when it comes to around accessibility?
Well, I would say to follow, especially for like e-commerce websites, social media, accessibility. There's someone on LinkedIn called Jamie Shields.
Okay.
He calls himself the Blind Rhino.
Okay.
And he does a lot of resources and posts about accessibility, whether that be like social media, captions, alt text, websites, contrasts. And his information is usually in infographics, and it's so easily digestible, and it's entertaining, and it's easy to kind of take in as someone who has no experience in accessibility. I've learned a lot from him, and because he talks about accessibility, and he's blind, and it's kind of again, like things that you wouldn't even think about, like having sentence casing on your hashtags, for example. So having, if it was, I don't know, e-commerce podcast, it'd be having capital letters on each word.
Yeah.
And that's because of the way screen readers read it, and not overusing emojis. Like some people use emojis as like bullet points and things like that. So there's little things that, again, like I wouldn't have ever thought about, but it's in a way that you can digest it really easily. And I think ultimately that people in my community are just happy that people want to learn, and we know that you're going to make mistakes. Like I've made mistakes, especially with my website, the first time round when I used an accessibility widget, it blew up overnight on LinkedIn, and it was kind of reached the experts who I didn't even know were out there. I thought I was doing a great thing, and it was like 80,000 impressions, hundreds of comments.
Wow.
And it's a very different world, England versus US, in terms of web accessibility. But it's all about humility and learning, and, putting your hands up and saying, I didn't know, or I made a mistake. And it's what you do from that you can learn.
Yeah, no, it's a fair comment. And I think that's very wise lessons for all of us in that, really. Because like you say, I think just trying to improve, just trying to be better, and actually just real people who struggle in real different ways. And actually it doesn't take a lot from our point of view to make it a whole lot easier for a whole bunch of people, with what we do. And I think that's fair play. What's the future hold, Millie? What's the next few years of human beauty look like? Where are you hoping it all goes to?
Yeah, that's the question that is going around in my head a lot at the moment, because ultimately I need to start making enough that I can pay myself is number one. As I said in the show, I want to be the Fenty Beauty for accessible beauty. I do believe that the beauty industry is going to catch on like the adaptive fashion world. It boomed and is a multi-million-pound, maybe billion-pound industry now, and I want to be the one leading the kind of way for that. And being known for accessible beauty. I want to start my other business, which I talk about making much wider change in terms of some kind of certification. We're basically going to do a certification for products, because right now there's no legislation that means businesses have to be accessible when it comes to products. There's legislation for venues, kind of, and ultimately right now going to a business say, it's the right thing to do. I want to make a bigger change in terms of consulting with businesses and helping businesses develop products that are accessible from the start. Because we're such a huge minority, the world's largest minority, and ultimately the one that anyone can become a part of. And you say about your glasses and stuff, that when I talk about disability, it's such a huge umbrella term, like age-related macular degeneration would come under that in terms of accessibility. So accessibility really affects everyone. So that is the plan. I need to get an investor basically as well, and hopefully one that shares my values in terms of making a change, and someone in the beauty industry, hopefully, because it's such a closed door industry still. Everyone is hush. No one wants to share anything really. So that would
Yeah, the beauty industry, I think, in some respects, run by major I appreciate there are. What I'm about to say is not true of everybody, because that would be an unfair thing to say. But I think the way that I viewed the beauty industry was I was glad to get out of it.
Yeah.
When we did, because it is horrific in some respects on so many levels. I remember reading the stat that my daughter, who incidentally has just turned 18, but she wasn't 18 at the time, she would see around 3,000 images a day through TV, through social media, through magazines, through posters. And out of those 3,000 images she would see, every single one of them would have been photoshopped in some way. So it's this industry which presents an unreality which is so far distorted from what is actually going on. I think it's criminal in many ways.
Yeah.
And it was like you, I felt the need to sort of challenge that when I was in the beauty industry. And it's not easy. So I think good on you for doing it, because I think it's a competitive industry. I think it definitely needs challenging. I think there is so much wrong with it. And there are some corporations who I think should be taken to task.
Yeah.
But that's just me. I'll get off my soapbox now, Millie. But I think good on you for doing it, and well done, and keep going, because I think it will make a difference to people, Yeah. And if you can make a living out of it, great. I think that would be great.
That's the ultimate thing. Like, I think if I didn't get messages every day from people telling me how important what I'm doing is and how game changing it is, and thank you. And, that was ultimately the best thing that came from Dragon's Den so far, is the messages I receive from people telling me how much the representation and me speaking up means to hundreds of people. If it wasn't for that, because you could say, a lot of people see it as just makeup, but it's so much more than that. If it wasn't for all that love, I have thought about giving up and going into my policy style thing, because the beauty industry is so toxic, and who you know, not what you know, and it's going to have so many barriers to entry. But I'm not giving up yet.
No, don't. Definitely keep going, and I keep telling us your story, because I think it's super inspiring. Millie, if people want to reach you, if they want to connect with you, what's the best way for them to do that?
On LinkedIn, it's Millie Flemington-Clare, or through my Instagram, it's Human Beauty LDN. And we have a contact us form on my website, www.humanbeauty.co.uk.
Fantastic. We will, of course, link to all of those in the show notes. And if you found our conversation helpful today, then make sure you're subscribed to the newsletter, because all of the notes, links and stuff will come in the newsletter, as well as a bit more deep dive into this sort of stuff. We always try and throw a lot more extra value into the newsletter. So if you want to know all of those little bits, make sure you're subscribed to that. But Millie, thank you. One thing I should probably ask you, actually, before we close out the show, I like to ask guests, I think I mentioned this to you, I like to ask guests for a question, which I then will go away and answer on social media, just slowing down my words to make sure I phrase that right. What's your question for me?
If you had one piece of advice for someone kind of in my position, starting out in a competitive industry, what would your advice be in terms of growing and keeping going?
Fantastic. Well, I will answer that question. If you want to know how I'm going to answer it, come follow me on LinkedIn, Matt Edmondson, and I will post the answer there. But Millie, it's been an absolute joy and a real treat chatting to you, and thank you so much. And I wish you every best. I wish you the best with every endeavour.
Thanks so much.
Going forward, it's lovely to see actually people wanting to use business to make a difference, rather than just people wanting to use business to make a shed load of money. Not that I don't have necessarily an issue with that, but I think actually thinking about the human cost and the human benefit on the way is super important. So thank you for reminding us of that.
Thank you for having me.
Well, there you go. That's it from me. That's it from Millie. Thank you so much for joining us. Have a fantastic week wherever you are in the world. I'll see you next time. Bye for now.